Hey everybody, welcome. I will wait just a little second, and while I'm doing that, actually, I'm gonna move my window that I am looking at so I can see if anybody has any questions. So while I'm doing that, I'm repping my Pure Barre Richardson shirt today. I got this for completing the Fall Fit Challenge, which was to do 30 classes in 60 days, which was easy because it wasn't easy. I was going to meet that goal anyway because of the platinum bar challenge that I'm doing for this year, which is where I am trying to do 15 classes a month, like for 12 months of the year. So I'm in my last month now. I've completed 5 classes so far and am on track to finish sometime the week before, or like the week of Christmas. So I should be, good to go on that. I'm really excited. Okay, can I see myself? Yes, I can. There I am. All right, good. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I can see a couple of people are watching, so I'm going to jump in because I try to keep these right at 30 minutes or a little bit less. I know everybody is busy and you don't have time to just listen to me drone on and on and on. So today we are talking about the overwhelm that comes with a new diabetic diagnosis. And I would say that applies to being told that you are pre-diabetic as well. There are just a lot of feelings that go along with being told that, especially if you are dealing with a type 1 or a type 1.5 diagnosis. That will involve insulin at some point, probably in the near future. If you are dealing with a child who has been given a type 1 diagnosis, that I can see would be quite scary. And I know I've asked my mom several times about it. I was diagnosed at age 3. I'll give you guys my very short form of my THM testimony here in a second. But I was diagnosed at age 3 with type 1 diabetes. And my mom said that my pediatrician handed her a book. He knew that my dad was a doctor and my dad was already diabetic. He was 29 when he was diagnosed, as still technically classed as an adolescent diabetic, but just barely. And so he knew that my dad was a doctor and he knew that my dad had diabetes, but he didn't offer any help or suggestions. And my mom was like, but my 3-year-old has this now. What am I supposed to do with her? And so she said that my mom is not a freaker-outer, so she didn't freak out, but she just said she had a really hard time trying to think that she was now fully responsible for not just keeping me alive, as in like not running out into the street, but watching and kind of keeping guard over every single thing I put into my mouth and giving me enough insulin, but not giving me too much insulin. And she said it was just a heavy weight to carry. So I can totally, I can't understand. I haven't gone through that experience, but at being the one now who has to feed myself and give myself enough insulin to not make me be high, but not too much insulin that I have a low, I can get that from a self-responsibility point of view. But I can imagine with my own daughter having those thoughts and just adding that on top of all the other things that parents have to do to try to keep their child alive during the day. So anyway, it can be a scary thing, and it can often, I think, from a medical standpoint and from just repeated stories that I have heard from those of you who have been my clients, or just those of you in my group in this group who have shared, you're just often given this diagnosis, and then they're like, okay, good luck. Here you go like try this metformin, and we'll start you on some Ozempic, and we won't talk really about the side effects of any of those things, but we'll just throw some medicine at it. You'll be fine, without really kind of explaining what are some different options that you have. And it might be the thing if I could like wiggle my nose and change something, I think that's the thing that I would change, because that is such a one-faceted way. That's one facet of taking care of being diabetic. That is not the multifaceted approach that is best for ongoing good quality care for your diabetes. And it makes it seem like if you only take this medicine that they're pushing on you, but you don't change any of your diet things, that like you'll carry on being fine. And just the statistics don't lie on that. Like you really do need to change. You need to, yes, maybe you need to take that medicine, maybe forever in some cases, maybe for a period of time. But if you don't change the way that you eat and the way that you move, then you are not going to be living in the most health that you can live in. So that is kind of what I want to talk about today. So I know that some of you have maybe felt some of these things. So I've got my notes here. I'm just going to kind of read through them as I'm talking to y'all. If you have not been with me for very long, I always have notes. I very rarely don't have notes. If I don't have notes, it's because I have given the talk several times and I just have it ingrained in my mind. But if there are really important things I want to say, I always write them down so I make sure that I say the things and don't just forget them in the moment. So you may be feeling overwhelmed. You may be feeling scared. You may be thinking, what in the world does this diagnosis mean for me ongoing? You may feel ashamed. You may think, man, I got myself here. Why did I do that? That was like, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? And just shame comes with that. You may feel angry at yourself or at others for getting to this point. Or some of you may feel relieved to have a diagnosis because you finally can kind of get a handle on what is going on in your body. Maybe you've known something's wrong for a while, but you just haven't known what it was. And so maybe having this diagnosis is a relief because you just think, okay, oh gosh, like at least I can start researching. I can start looking at things. I can start finding ways to help. And so it may be that you are feeling that, but understandably feeling overwhelmed is understandable. Being scared is understandable. Probably feeling helpless too. Very understandable. Because like I said, sometimes doctors just chuck medicine at you and say, okay, see you next year. And they don't really give you any tools or they don't empower you to make the best decision for yourself health-wise. And that is that's one of the main roles I see myself as playing, is empowering you ladies to take control of your health and to do it well, and to be able to be successful at it and to see at least the symptoms of your diabetes, and maybe even in the case of pre-diabetes, you just walking yourself out of that to where that's not a thing you have to deal with anymore. So you may, after you get over that initial shock of your diagnosis, you may be feeling helpless. You may be feeling fearful. You may be feeling just like you don't know what are your next good steps, and you're just sort of paralyzed in like thinking and wondering, what is it that I can put in my body? What can I eat that's not going to harm me further? You may be thinking, I don't actually trust myself very much anymore. I was eating how I thought, was okay to eat. Maybe I didn't eat great, but I didn't just do a terrible job of it. I ate a salad every now and then. I tried to eat chicken breast and, tried not to eat everything fried, but just a little bit. Surely that's not going to hurt me. So distrust in yourself is an understandable thing, but it's also just a very common thing of not knowing if you can carry on. Well, clearly you can't carry on how you have been, but just kind of fearful about putting things into your body, or not knowing what are the things to do because you don't feel like you can trust yourself anymore. So with all that being said, today, right now, what is today? December the 8th at 2:39 p.m. Central Time. I want us to take off that old mindset that we have had, and I want us to put on a new mindset. Or I guess some of you are going to be watching this later. So you look at your clock when you're watching this and you think, okay, on this date at this time, new mindset. I'm going to be putting on a new mindset. And I want us to set some new goals for ourselves. So previously your goal may have been, oh, I just want to have a good checkup every year when I go see my doctor and get my blood work done. I want to remain marginally healthy or somewhat healthy so that I can play with my grandkids when they come along, or so that I can go traveling when my husband retires or when I retire, to do all these things. And I'm here to tell you those things are still possible, but we are going to expand on our goals, moving them from something that is some small goals to some bigger goals. But in doing that, we're going to shift our mindset. So our mindset has been going this direction. We are going to stop where we are, and we're going to turn, and we're going to go the opposite direction of how we were going. Okay. So goal number 1, in your new diagnosis, I want you to start learning how to use carbs to your advantage. I have had several messages from different people this week. It's funny, right before I was giving this talk, was kind of inundated with messages of people telling me, oh, I've been working with this other coach and she wants me to have too many carb meals every day, and she wants me to have full carb meals, and I don't know how to do that, and it's just screwing up my blood sugar. And so all these things can feel overwhelming, because you just think, well, every time I put a carb in my mouth, up goes my blood sugar. There are ways for you to learn to eat and use carbs to your advantage. Now, those have to be done in a particular way. That's the honest to goodness reason why I created that Pulled Back workshop, is because I want to teach you how to do that well. That workshop is $37. It is not expensive. It is a $37 investment into your ongoing diabetic health. If that's the only thing you ever do with me that is paid, that would be well worth your money. I cannot begin to tell you the number of people who I have heard back from who have said, Coach Mary Beth, I did your Pulled Back course. It has changed my life. I don't know, 58 people have done that course now. Well, that's not true. 100 and something people have done that course now. And I have probably 10 testimonies of people who have said that or more. And those are just people who thought to write back to me later. So it's a good course, and it will help you learn what you need to do. So goal number 1 is to learn to work carbs to your advantage. Okay. You got to learn how to use them. Your blood sugars will be lower when you are getting in regular and good for you carbs. Okay. Goal number 2 is to remind yourself that learning new things takes time. Be gracious with yourself. You will make a mistake, or 72. It will just happen. And you need to practice saying the following thing. We are drawing a line under that. This is what I want you to say to yourself. Okay, that didn't go as I planned. We're drawing a line under that, and I will do better next time. You don't have to feel guilty about that. You don't have to feel even bad about that. Sometimes things just don't go the way that you planned. Sometimes a carb that you thought was going to be amazing for you, like, totally screws you over, and you have skyrocketed blood sugars. That's okay. We're going to talk about this later. But that's just a learning experience, and it has given you some information. So you take that information and you apply it in a different way later. So you'll know, okay, that wasn't the carb for me right now. I'm gonna wait. I'll try that again later, but I know that's just information. That's data for me to make an informed decision next time, okay? I want you to kind of summon your inner Elsa and just let it go if things do not go as you wanted them to go. We are walking experiments. We just have to test things out on ourselves in order to find out what works for us, in what amount, at what time of day. I'm going to talk about that later. I'm getting into another goal. Okay. So just practice saying, I'm drawing a line under that. I cannot do anything to change what has happened in the past, and I will do better next time. Okay. I tell my people in seedlings this, like, we talk about this kind of this idea of learning new things being challenging. And I will tell you that I liken it to learning another language. If you have learned another language, or if you have met somebody who they're working on learning English, the best way to do it is to just practice. And you got to make mistakes. You have to be kind and correct somebody when they are speaking incorrectly. The way that people may have been kind with you. I know in living overseas, I lived in Morocco and I lived in France. And in both of those places, I had people who would correct my French or correct my Arabic, which was helpful to me. It made me be more informed, more knowledgeable, more able to use my language, but I had to make mistakes in order to do those things. And so this same thing applies here. As you're learning this new way of living, this new way of interacting with food, you will make mistakes, and that is fine. Okay? Goal number 3. You are not to look at food as your enemy. And this goes to speaking to I don't know what to put in my mouth now. So food is something that can aid in your healing. It can aid in reducing the symptoms of your diabetes. Especially if you're a type 1, finding out the foods that are good, workable carbs for you will help your blood sugar numbers be better. It will help once you have learned how to interact with carbs correctly and the right way. It will help you to do those well and to have better blood sugars because of that. So getting in those carbs will help in healing, or at least relieving the symptoms. So food is not the bad guy. Food is helpful. Food can help heal. A lot of times, blood sugar issues are the result of inflammation in the body. So once you reduce your inflammation and you bring that down, then you are going to find yourself in a better stead because that inflammation is gone. That all goes to food healing that. So stop thinking of food as the enemy. Food is your friend. Food will help you, provided you're doing it the right way. I got to say that. Goal number 4. I want you to get into the habit of checking your blood sugars. Some of you are going to want to throw rotten tomatoes at your screen to get to me for saying that. But the way to control blood sugars the best is to make informed and educated decisions. One of the ways that you make that informed decision is knowing what is your blood sugar right now. And then when you're trying new foods or new combinations of foods, checking your blood sugar to see, how did this affect my blood sugar? I knew what my blood sugar was before my meal. I now ate this new thing, or I tried this new way of combining things. And that didn't have the effect that I thought it was going to have. So what was that? That gives you an informed, it helps you make an informed decision. It helps you to see, what do foods do to you, whether positively or negatively. I want to encourage you, especially those of you with a type 2 diagnosis. It is so easy for you to just stick your heads in the ground like an ostrich and pretend that you can't see the problem. If you can't see the problem isn't there. But what do we know about ostriches sticking their head in the ground? Their big giant bodies are still up above the ground for the lion to see. The lion's still going to come and get that ostrich because it can see. Just because the ostrich doesn't know that it's coming doesn't mean the problem isn't there. So by you just ignoring your blood sugar and acting like that's not a thing, an issue that exists, that is going to come back and smack you in the face later. So at the time of your diagnosis is the key time to start checking your blood sugar. And I'm going to be so strong. This is where you're going to get my fiery self. I'm going to be so strong as to say shame on the doctors who do not even mention checking blood sugar when they hand somebody a type 2 diabetic diagnosis. Shame on them. That is wrong. It is not helpful. It's probably the least helpful thing that they can do for you, because you knowing what your blood sugar is the very first step in empowerment. So you empower yourself to know what kinds of foods you need to eat and how those foods affect your body by checking your blood sugar and seeing what that is. So if you take nothing else away from this talk, I want you to hear me say, that getting into the habit of checking your blood sugar is probably the number one most proactive, prolific thing that you can do for yourself. Okay? Hear me say that. That's the most important thing I'm going to say today. Don't be an ostrich. Check your blood sugar. I know that it's a real pain in the rear end to prick your finger, but I was writing a blog post about goji berries that's coming out next week. I know I said it was coming out this week, but I thought holiday tips would be more important in the email. So the goji berries are coming out next week. But as I was writing that blog post, you guys, I was checking my blood sugar on my fingers, on this hand only, and really on these 4 fingers only, 25 times a day during my pregnancy. 25. Do you think that my fingers were shot to bits by the end of the 8 months that I was pregnant? Yeah, they were. It was terrible. But you know what? I did it anyway, because I needed to know what was my blood sugar doing. I was in England. I didn't have the option of having a CGM at that time. If I had had that option, I would have taken it, because goodness knows my fingers needed a little break. But you can do hard things. That's what I'm about to tell you. Checking your blood sugar is important. It is how you will know what is happening in your body and what food is doing to you. Okay, so positive and negative. And then the last thing, goal number 5, is I want you to tell yourself that you can do hard things. I know that people say that a lot, but in the case of diabetes, you don't have another choice. You can do hard things, and eventually those things aren't hard anymore. They're not hard anymore because you've learned to do them, and you've learned to do them well. And so you'll get to find new hard things to do. You will be encouraged by the hard things that you learned to do early in your diabetic diagnosis. In Seedlings, we walk people through this process. We walk through checking blood sugars. We walk through helping with what kinds of foods that you need to be eating. Menus are provided. We've got it's a great structure for learning how to be diabetic and eat this trim healthy way. I created this course as something that I wished somebody had created for me when I was new to THM. Obviously, I wasn't new to diabetes, but when I was first learning the trim healthy way of doing things, I wish this course existed. This is how I put it together, is what would have been good for me to know in my early days of THM. And so I want you to know that you can do hard things. You can. You can do things that you might think are impossible, but you learn to do them, and you are going to feel so good about yourself once you have learned to do them. And they may not always be necessary to do. That's the thing to remember. If you were in an early pre-diabetic diagnosis, girl, take the time to get things under control in your body. You can walk away from that. This can be a thing that you don't have to struggle with anymore in the pre-diabetic days. Once you are into type 2 diabetes, then it's kind of a long-term diagnosis, while also being something that if you put into practice and do the things that I teach in classes like Seedlings, or just from time to time and here in these lives, if you put those things into play and you consistently and constantly are doing those things, then you may not have to live with the symptoms of type 2 diabetes. You may be free from that, but you'll have to always keep in the back of your mind, if I stop doing these things, I'm going to slide back into that diagnosis, and that'll be a thing that I have to take care of and I have to pay attention to, rather than just getting automated the things to do to have this just be a way of living for you. I will tell you that as a type 1, I've had type 1 diabetes since I was 3. Just going to give you a little short THM testimony. I've had type 1 diabetes since I was 3. So I have been on insulin since the summer of when I was 3. And I will tell you that in my THM life, I started doing THM. I implemented it for good and sure in February of 2018. And I don't really have to think about it anymore. For a couple of years now, I haven't really had to think about it. Everything is so automated. This is just the way I eat now. I currently, some of you guys may know this about me, I currently can't really do any bread. So I can't do grains of, like floury things. So do I wish that I could make myself a grilled cheese sandwich? Yes. I made Annie a grilled cheese sandwich today with some delicious British cheddar cheese that I found at Costco, and I was so excited about it. And I kind of was like, should I just do it? Like, I've got some sprouted bread in the fridge or in the freezer. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do it because I know what's going to happen to me. When I eat bread, my blood sugar gets high, and it's high for 24 to 36 hours. And so it's because I have an inflammatory response to bread, which makes my blood sugar go up. So I made an informed decision, knowing what bread did to me, that I wasn't going to have any. And I had a little conversation in my brain about that. But that's probably the most that I think about anything is kind of more like that, rather than having to think like, oh, what am I going to have for lunch today? Or what am I going to have for a snack? How am I going to do this? These are the things the principles that I live by are very automated at this point. I don't have to think about them anymore. And I want to encourage you that you can, and with a little work, you will get there at some point. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, a little bit of walking alongside of some people to get that automation going. But once it's going, it's really easy to keep implemented. So I just want to encourage you that wherever you are in your diabetic life or your pre-diabetic life, today is the day, whatever day it is that you're watching this. Today is the day to get started on better control, on empowering yourself to be in control of your health. That is up to no one except for you. I can't be in charge of Dave's health. I'm sort of in charge of Annie's health, but I can't stick food in her mouth and make her chew. I can give her good, choices that she can choose from. So I guess until she's a teenager, I can be in charge of what she is eating. But at some point, I'm only going to be in charge of me and my choices and the things that I do. And so I want to empower myself to know how to make those choices. And I really want to empower you to know how to make the best choices that you can, so that you can be alive and healthy and in a good place to play with your grandchildren, to get to see your children grow up, to see them graduate from high school and from college or from trade school or whatever they're going to go on to do with their lives. You don't want to be sitting around here with missing limbs or missing fingers or toes because your diabetes was out of control. No, we're not about that life here. We are about healthy living and freedom from the stranglehold of diabetes. That does not have to exist for you. So I hope I've gotten you all good and fired up on this Thursday afternoon, that you can really, just see that this way of living is a very viable option for you. All right. I'm going to look over here and see if I have any comments. I just see a couple, just some heys and hellos. Hey and hello back. All right. If y'all are watching this later and you have got comments or questions or anything about anything I have said, stick them in here or send me a message. That's fine. And I will do my best to get back to you. All right. We are right here, right at 28 minutes. So I think I'm going to go ahead and stop us here. And I will see you next Thursday. I cannot remember what we are talking about, but look for it in the Wednesday email. I am giving you next week my copycat recipe for the Ningxia Red Young Living stuff. It has been miraculous for my eyeballs. The goji berries have. So if you have eye problems, or if you have diabetic retinopathy or macular degeneration, you're going to want to you're going to want to read that email, because it's got information that is helpful for you. So I will stick my link for my signing up for my email list in here. And like I said, if y'all have any questions or anything on here, anything that's said, you can either put your question below, or you can send me a message with your question in it. All right. Thanks, ladies. Hope y'all have a great weekend. Bye.